Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Just know that I'm saying hello. I hope that you guys are doing well. I feel like it's been so long since I said that, so long since my last video, so I wanted to come and give you guys an update. Let's jump right into the video. I know that you guys, I am noticing that I'm getting a lot of traffic on my last video concerning my myomectomy. So of course I wanted to keep you guys on this journey with me, give you guys some updates, and let you know how the first week of recovery went. Let's start with basically the surgery and how the surgery went. So going back for the surgery, I was completely nervous. My nerves were all over the place, but my nurses and everybody who were back there, the doctors, they were really nice. So when I went back, the nurse basically gave me some instructions on what to do before surgery. I had to like wipe myself down with these wipes to make sure my skin was clean. I had to clean out my nose. Of course, I had to dress and get into the hospital gown. I had to pee in a cup as well, and then I was just waiting. My doctor came around, the nurse came around to give me my IV, and then the anesthesiologist came around. He spoke to me about, you know, the anesthesia and how all of that will go when the time is right. And then it was time for me to go to the operating room. So the nurses wheeled me off to the operating room. Of course, my nerves were still all over the place. Of course, my husband and my mom could not come back while I was waiting. So I was just kind of having to tough it out all by myself. So they took me to the operating room. And when I got back to the operating room, it was kind of weird too, because this was my first surgery, so just seeing how the operating room was like a little weird. So I was really nervous. And then when you get back to the operating room, it's like so much going on. There's so many people in there trying to help with the operation and just trying to help get you situated for the doctor and everything else. So when I got back there, they transferred me to the operating table. Operating table had like a dip. It's like a dip in the bed that you have to scoot your butt all the way down to. So it was a nurse in there telling me like, scoot down, scoot down, scoot down, scoot down. And I'm like, how far you want me to scoot? So I finally got in the right position, and then the doctor with the anesthesia, he was like, I'm gonna give you something to calm your nerves, and I'm also gonna give you some oxygen. I said, okay. So when he said, I'm gonna give you something to calm your nerves and the oxygen, that was the last thing I remember. I was like, I took the oxygen mask, and then that was it. Next thing I remember is waking up in the recovery room. My nurse was waking me up, trying to, you know, see if I was okay. And I just remember like going in and out, in and out. And then I remember her waking me up and telling me that I would have to choose who I wanted to come back, either my mom or my husband, and only one person can come back. And I was just like so distraught, because I'm like, I don't know who to choose, but I really want to see my husband and I really want to see my mom. So I just kept falling back asleep. Like, honestly, I was just like, girl, you're gonna have to choose for me, because I am out of it. Mind you, in between the times that she was talking to me, I really thought it was like 20 minutes in between, but honestly, it was probably like 5 minutes that she kept waking me up and asking me like, who do you want to come back? And I'm like, I don't know. And I remember telling her like, I want to see my husband. So I would just fall back asleep. Every time she asked, I would just fall back asleep. Then she finally woke me up and was like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let your husband sneak back here. And I'm like, okay. In my head, it was like 20 minutes later, but it was probably only like 5 minutes later. My husband came back, and he woke me up, and I just lost it, y'all. It was just so, it was the best moment, because I knew that the nurse wasn't supposed to let him back there, but she snuck him back there for me anyway. And I remember my husband coming up and saying, "Hey, babe." And I was like, "Hey, baby." And we just talked for a little while, so that was nice. Thing I remember after speaking to my husband was going up to my room that I was going to be staying in. And I remember getting to the room and having to be transferred to that hospital bed. And that was tough. Because they put like a metal kind of plate down to transfer you over to the other bed. That was really tough on my body. That hurt. That was the first time that I was in pain. And I remember my gown being covered in blood. Not to make anybody nervous that's getting the procedure, I'm just, you know, sharing my experience. Where my incision was had bled out, I guess because my doctor didn't dress it properly. So when I moved beds, my gown, my whole gown where my cut was bloody. Like everything was bloody. And what made me freak out was my nurse was like, "Oh my goodness, like, you're bleeding." So when I looked down, my eyes was like, and you know, you're coming off them drugs, so you still high as a kite. And I was just like, oh Jesus. But they changed me. They got my, you know, my incision redressed and all of that. And so then I was just chilling. And that was, you know, after surgery. Mom got to come up after that, and most of that time was recorded on the last video. Most of that time was like a blur. Pain level was maybe like a 7 or 8, but I do have a high tolerance for pain. So it was not that bad the first night. Thinking back, the first night, I really didn't have any issues. I wasn't eating much, but I did not have any like issues that just stand right out to me. I remember watching a lot of women on YouTube say that they have problems with their bladder and with the catheter. So I made sure that I was paying attention to my body and paying attention to the catheter. And y'all, for the first like few hours, I had no problems with my catheter. They would come in and, you know, dump it out or whatever, but I had no pain, no problems, especially while my mom was there. For some reason, I had no pains, no problems. I was like, I was pretty straight. I slept really most of the time after the surgery. I was just really out of it. Honestly, I can't even remember most of it, but I'm gonna tell y'all the good details. So my mom left about 6 o'clock that night. Like I said, I had no problems with the catheter. Everything was going smoothly. I was taking ibuprofen and Tylenol. So they would come like every 3 hours, I guess, and they would switch it off. So it would be ibuprofen, then it would be Tylenol. So I was taking that. I didn't take any of the, I think they prescribed me Oxy. I wasn't taking that at all. I didn't have to. I was just making sure that they came around with that ibuprofen and the Tylenol. That's what I wanted, honey. So I was good on that. Like I said, I didn't eat much. Didn't really feel like eating much. And then the first problem that I ran into was my bladder. In the middle of the night, like I said, I had been sleeping fine, but in the middle of the night, I woke up and my bladder was on fire. It was like excruciating pain. and I knew that it was because of that catheter, and it's because you're laying there and you're kind of moving around, so the catheter gets out of position. So I had to deal with that, but all I did was call a nurse, and they came and it was like the tube was like caught in a certain place, so everything wasn't draining properly. So that was the most pain that I was in, was that bladder. When my bladder got full and that tube got jacked up, oh my God, that pain was like 10 out of 10. It woke me up out of my sleep. Of course, they came around after the surgery to try to get you out the bed and walking. That wasn't too bad for me. Just getting out the bed was difficult, of course. Honestly, it's a week later. Getting out the bed is still kind of difficult for me because I kind of have to roll over on my side and then get out the bed. But I mean, that comes with the surgery. Now, here's where the story gets kind of suspect. Most women stay in the hospital after a myomectomy 2 days or 2 nights or whatever. I only stayed the day and the night of the surgery. The next day I was cleared to go home, and I feel like honestly I went home too early. I was kind of pushing myself to go home. Of course, you have to hit certain milestones, like you have to tolerate your pain without the opioids that they prescribe to you. You have to use the bathroom on your own, which honestly I had no problem doing. They were also giving me stool softeners, so I think that helped a lot with, you know, number 2. I was going number 1 fine, but number 2, I think the stool softeners helped a lot. You also had to keep food down. Now, that was my issue, okay? That is the reason why I feel like I should have stayed 2 nights. So, when I was in the hospital, I was eating, I was on a liquid diet, like Jello, popsicles, juice, water, things like that. Broth, they give you a lot of broth, soup, you know, different things like that. When I was taking the medicine, my stomach really wasn't full with like real solids. It was all liquids. So the next morning, I was able to eat a little bit of breakfast, but like I said, I was pushing myself a little more than I should have because I was just ready to go home. In my head, I felt up to it. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to go home. I have a high tolerance for pain, so the pain really wasn't much for me. I was ready to go home. So the next morning, I got up out of bed. I was really, really woozy, but I got up, I brushed my teeth, and then I was waiting for my mom to get there, and I was waiting for breakfast. Got up, brushed my teeth, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling kind of nauseous this morning. Feeling kind of sick. Like I said, I was on a liquid diet. I wasn't eating solids that well yet. This is the next day after surgery. I sat down after I brushed my teeth. When I sat down, y'all, I threw up a little bit. TMI, but this is just my journey. I felt bad because I'm like, if I tell the nurses that I threw up, they may not let me go home. Let the nurse know that, you know, I threw up a little bit. And I'm like, am I still gonna be able to go home? Because that's one milestone that you have to hit in order for them to let you go home. You have to be able to keep your food down. She was like, oh man, I guess you know, let's just see how you do. So later on that day, I was still feeling kind of sick, but I was pushing through. I threw up again. And that time, like I said, I wasn't eating solids. So it was a lot of, you know, just nothingness coming up. But that time I like projectile. Like it was bad. It was bad. I hadn't been that sick ever. So I'm like, man, I'm feeling, you know, I'm not doing too good. But after I threw up the second time, I was feeling a little better. The nurses actually had to come in that time and like clean up because I was not able to get out of bed. My mom came by that time. I'm like, I am feeling good. My doctor came back in and she was looking at my cut. I was telling her that, you know, I was feeling kind of nauseous, and she was like, well, we can send you home with nausea medicine. As long as you're able to keep your lunch down, you should be good. Said, okay. So for lunch I had pizza. I kept it down. So I went home the day after surgery. I went home the day after surgery. Got in the car with my husband, my mom. I was feeling good. The ride home was rocky. I suggest always keeping a pillow with you and hugging that pillow to your stomach, at least for the first week. So I get in the house, I'm chilling, I'm good. Everything is still kind of a blur. It took me a while to kind of get back to myself after being, you know, on the anesthesia, because I have never been on anesthesia before. So it took me a few days to get back to myself. Like I was in and out of sleep for maybe 3 days, honestly. First day I come home, I am sick as a dog. I mean, I am sick as a dog. Got my mama and my husband worried to death. Like I was not able to keep anything down. Barely able to walk up, you know, right or whatever, whatnot. But I pushed through. Second day, I was sick as a dog. Sick as a dog. Just not able to keep anything down. The second day, I literally called my doctor and was like, what is going on? She was like, well, you must just have a weak stomach. Because I wasn't sent home with any oxy, I didn't take any pain meds except ibuprofen and Tylenol. So third day comes around, I was pretty good. I was able to finally start eating some solids. My doctor did put me back on a liquid diet, but by the third day of being home, I was okay. I was able to eat some solids. I was still kind of nauseous, but nothing was coming back up. So that was just my journey as far as and throwing up and not being able to keep anything down. It was really kind of strange to me because I hadn't seen any women talking about being sick to the stomach like that. It was more about the pain level. Of course, like walking around, stuff like that. I saw a lot of constipation. I haven't been constipated. I've been able to use the bathroom, but like I said, my doctor and the nurses at my hospital where I got the procedure done were giving me stool softeners and worked fine for me. Like the first day I came home, I used the bathroom. When I was in the hospital, I used the bathroom, so I didn't have any issues with that. It was just the nausea that got me. As far as like walking, of course you're gonna have some difficulty walking up straight, upright for the first, definitely for the first few days, maybe even the first week of recovery. I'm just now getting to the point where I can walk normally. I still get winded. It takes a lot of energy for me to do things, but I made sure that I was always walking around because I didn't want to get blood clots or anything like that. So I made sure that I was walking around. I was, you know, walking up the steps. My doctor cleared me to walk up the steps. So, and I probably shouldn't have, but the first night that I came home, the first day that I was home, I slept upstairs in my bed. I came upstairs, probably shouldn't have, like I said, but I did. So I didn't have problems walking up the stairs. I just took my time. I always keep a pillow with me walking, just so that I can have support on my stomach. But I mean, I was doing pretty good with the walking. Pain level while walking for the first few days was like, from a scale of 1 to 10, probably like a 7 while walking, because you gotta think the cut is like rubbing and your uterus and your inside, you know, I mean, you're walking, so it feels kind of strange, and it is a little painful. The most pain and the most discomfort that I've been having is getting in and out the bed, and sleeping in the bed has been the most difficult thing for me even now. And I can say I'm about at like 80% now, but getting in and out the bed and sleeping in the bed is kind of difficult still. Pain level coming home and sleeping in the bed was probably like 8 or a 9, because like you don't have stomach core, so like trying to pull yourself up is like almost impossible. I suggest really sleeping, if you have an upstairs downstairs house, I suggest maybe sleeping on the couch straight up, so that you don't have to like pull yourself out of bed, or you know, pull yourself up and down. Where I am now, I will say I am maybe 80%, 85%. Of course, I still have some recovering to do. My stomach is still hard, and I'm having problems with like bloating and gas. But other than that, I am walking straight. I am eating solids. I eat whatever I want. I just try not to overdo it, because I have bloating issues, and that bloating really hurts, and it causes gas and stuff like that. But as far as how I'm feeling, I am feeling pretty good. I'm ready to recover all the way. I have a doctor's appointment, like a 2-week post-op appointment with my doctor this Tuesday coming up. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm also bringing you guys along. So like always, if you have any questions, any concerns, if I have left anything out of this video, please comment down below. I'm still bringing you guys along in my journey, so I will be updating the journey, you know, and keeping you guys updated as much as I can. And I hope that you guys enjoyed.